So far, we've been stuck controlling the volume either by using our reactor controls up here, our final fader, or with this level control down here, but there must be a way to modulate the volume, but we haven't seen it. And so when I look at this module here, it's not really a module at all because there's no way to modulate it. There's no mod A, mod B slots. It just kind of is what it is. And so, it's not going to really do that much for us, especially if we want to start getting into playing notes or even to control this with an LFO. We couldn't control the volume with an LFO at this point. And that's why we're going to go and start looking at our next module, which is the VCA. So let's disconnect our cables here and bring up the VCA. And right away, what I love about this is that we have a mod A and a mod B slot. And I have a level control here. If I click mod A, I can see that I can modulate that. And that's exactly what I want. So I'm going to go and I'm going to run the output now into that final level. And we're going to bring the output of the oscillator in, okay, to the VCA. And now as I bring the level up, we get level. Still having to do this on my own. But if I go and I bring in an LFO now, we can take the output of this LFO to go into modulation source A. And let's set this to be unipolar. Put to the other side. And now have this controlling the level. And now I don't have to do this myself. I can have a control working there for me. All right, so that is the example of a VCA. We also have mixers, and mixers can operate in a kind of similar principle to this. I can get rid of that and instead bring in the mixer. And you'll see that we get 4 input slots as well as modulation sources. So this is useful because we could run this oscillator here in, bring in another oscillator, if I can click the right button, and I could take this one and put it into input slot 2, right? And then I'd have individual control over these, or these could even then be modulated. But let's just stick to the one just so we can see how simple this is to work with. And again, if I wanted the LFO to go in and control this volume knob on its own, I take the LFO, I run it in here, I take the output. Let's just get some sound coming out of this thing. All right, we can hear that like so. I take that LFO, right? Simple as pie. Same idea holds true if we were to use the crossfader. And with the crossfader, we probably would actually want to have 2 oscillators here going at the same time. So I'm just going to duplicate this down, bring the output of this here. Again, like to get some sound. This might be an opportunity where it'd be good to go out from this into more of a standard VCA. We'll probably do that in just a second. But I take the output here, and this is going to be oscillator 2. We'll rename this to oscillator 1. Right now they're playing the same pitch and have the same wave shape. But we can obviously adjust that. And if we want to preface oscillator 1 or oscillator 2, we can do that. We can also, I believe, adjust the way that these curve, maybe. Yeah. So that's kind of cool. But then if I want to be able to crossfade between those 2 oscillator sounds, I can use the LFO to do that very easily. And now is when I'd want to go into a bipolar mode, so I could go between the 2, increase that modulation depth all the way, slow it down considerably. And let's take a listen to this. So then this could also be really cool if I was to take the sine here, run it into the FM. something like that. And at the end, I might want another VCA to control things a little bit more in a standard way. I'd actually probably bring in a compressor before, but, you know, we're not getting into mixing type stuff at this point. And now with that VCA hooked up, I just need to find wherever it's put it. Bring that over. Try taking this into... So you can hear how aggressive of a sound we can get, or how varied of a sound we can get with just a few connections, no hands controlling this. And again, if we even wanted to then control this level further, we'd probably have to bring in something a little bit different, and that's what we're going to be looking at in the next video. Just as one final FYI, if you are planning to use the scope and you want it to pick up everything, you need to make sure your signal flow is correct. So right now what we have is this scope is connected to oscillator 1, but it's not taking into account what's happening here with the crossfade module or what's happening with this final VCA. So make sure if you are using the scope or when you're using any module that you pay attention to the signal flow. So what we're going to do now is actually go out from this VCA, go in here, and now we'd be able to see everything that's going on. So just something I wanted to draw your attention to if you are planning to work with the scope. Typically, the logical place to put it is after your final VCA. Normally, the last thing you'll have in a chain will be some kind of a VCA, especially if you're going to be triggering notes. And so to have the scope after that usually makes the most sense.